check, raise, fold, all in. Poker terms such as these have become common language among teenagers. Professional poker players Doyle Brunson, Phil Hellmuth, and Chris Moneymaker are considered to be heroes. Poker has become the new teenage pastime. But where does society draw the line between recreation and addiction? In this story, we will look at the world of teenage gambling and examine the positive and negative consequences of poker. In order to better understand the poker phenomenon, this reporter participated in a local poker tournament with a field of 32 players, each putting up a $20 entry fee. After the tournament, I was able to get an interview with one of the participants, whose identity will remain anonymous. Why did you start playing poker?
I started playing poker just because there wasn't much to do. I mean, it's not like you can go out to a friend's house and have a party every single weekend, since that just gets old and redundant. But, I mean, you can just come play poker and it's different every time. What got me into playing for money is about in my junior year, I was invited over to a friend's house, and it's the small stakes, and we were just going to play for a little bit of money, and I just got hooked.
What were the stakes then, and how have they changed over the course of the past year?
Back then, the stakes were about $5, and I mean, if you bought in for an extra $5, it was no big deal, but that was about it.
How have these stakes changed over the course of the past year?
Nowadays, we can play for 10, 15, 20, and buy back in 2 or 3 times, and no one really cares.
How much money have you ever won in a given game?
The most that I've ever won is probably about $75.
And what's the most you've ever lost?
Probably about $65. I try to limit myself a little bit.
Do your parents know you play for this much money?
Well, they understand that I play for money, and normally when I come home I just say that I ended up even for the night, or made a couple bucks, or lost a couple bucks, you know, no big deal. But I normally don't say that, yeah, I bought in for $20, lost it in the first 5 minutes, so I bought in for another 20.
Could you describe the typical weekend poker game?
The typical weekend poker game is basically we all go to the same friend's house, you know. We don't really need a call anymore, we just kind of show up, because it's always the same thing every single time. And we just kind of sit around a table or two and just play a bunch of poker for about 2 hours. Sometimes we'll go watch a movie or something, but mainly it's just poker.
Do you think teen gambling is a problem in Amity?
Well, I think in some cases it is a problem. I mean, some people just get way into it and get way over their heads about it. I mean, I know some people that have been in debt over $100, you know, $500. But, I mean, I don't really think that it's a problem if you just do it for fun.
Next, I sat down with Amity School psychologist Mrs. Kathy Austin to get a professional opinion regarding teenage gambling. Have you ever watched the World Series of Poker on ESPN or the World Poker Tour on the Travel Channel?
I've watched parts of it. I've never watched a whole show.
And what is your opinion of these shows?
Well, my personal opinion watching it was that they were entertaining. You know, they were, to me, it's in the same vein as watching a good game show. But I do think that they are probably influencing, you know, young people.
Do you think these shows give teenagers the wrong ideas about gambling?
I think that it certainly, you know, feeds that fantasy of, you know, that anyone can win. A lot of the people around that poker table look like everyday kind of people.
Do you think if they showed more of the negative side of the tournaments, that it would help with this gambling wave?
I think that they purposely don't show that because it's not good entertainment. They have their purpose in mind to, you know, for their ratings. And I think that it is skewed to be extremely exciting knowing that someone's going to win big.
Other than these programs, what has caused the rise in interest in poker in the last several years?
Cards are cheap and readily available. So it's not a difficult thing to put a poker game together. I think that the good side of having some friends get together and play poker is that it's fun, and it's not necessarily dangerous if there are guidelines to it.
What advice would you give to someone who is in over their head?
Well, I think that they, would need some, someone professionally to talk to. Is there are addictive behaviors that, a teenager probably should be aware of.
How can addiction be prevented?
From the parent point of view, if you're if you see that your son or daughter is enjoying poker tournaments and is hosting some in their house, or just having some kids around the table, I think just teaching teach your child kind of responsible gambling, is that you only want to put on the table what is comfortable for you to walk away not having at the end of the night.
What long-term problems can result from teenage gambling?
Interfering with their concentration in school, that's certainly a problem. If they are using, say, their pay from a part-time job just so they can gamble, that's a problem. If they are dipping into their parents' credit card or stealing money around the house, obviously that's a problem.
Does the administration at Amity have any plans to combat teenage gambling?
Well, I know that card playing is prohibited in school. So, we do offer help and support, but we're also saying it's not acceptable in school.
Would any state-instituted legislation be effective in combating teenage gambling?
So I think we've come to a time, because it's been a problem in some areas, that the government may have to look at it.